2. Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. Yes, I am wearing the Keep the Preakness in Baltimore pin here, courtesy of our friends at Cole Roofing and Gordian Energy, who bring us yet another community and charity series, which inspired Baltimore Positive. And I love telling these stories because, especially when I'm the dummy in the room, right? So I bring on someone like Mike Coleman, who's been involved with the Children's Home for about 15 years now. They're doing a big event later on, not this month, but early next month. And I'm going to invite everybody to be involved in this. This thing's going on November 1st. But first off, good day to you. How are you? Good to tell a good story about great stuff going on around here. And I know you've been helping the folks at Children's Home for the better part of a decade and a half. And I know it's a project of yours and a passion, and you're here to tell us about it. Good day to you, Mike. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, let's go back to the beginning. I always ask the story when there's any author on or anybody doing good work. How'd you hear about this, and how'd you get involved in this, and how'd you wind up over here telling me a story about how you're making the world a better place?
Sure. So it was like a lot of the best things that have happened in my life, very random, actually. I was going to school at University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and I was actually studying financial economics to work on Wall Street as a trader. And I was in the dining hall and saw a little pamphlet basically on the table saying, work with at-risk kids for Baltimore. And I figured I had a few minutes on my hands, so I would get involved in that, and mentorship through that program led me to give up finance and become a social work major.
Well, you were what, 19, 20? How old were you when this happened?
I was 18 at the time.
18. So you were like freshman-y at UMBC trying to find yourself in the world, huh?
Exactly. I was only 2 months into school, and I thought I knew what I wanted, and then I realized I had no idea what I actually wanted. And
hey, I'm 51 on Monday, and I'm still trying to figure it out. You know? Well, Faces 2019, I want to give everybody the date and what we're doing here. It's November 1st. It's 6 till 10. It's up at the Grand Lodge. All the events information's up on the events and calendar page at thechildren'shome.net. Tell us about the Children's Home. So you found the pamphlet, and you're at UMBC, and this is a different era, right? This is 15, 20 years ago, right?
It was, yeah. And I ended up working with this at-risk kids program, and that kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things that I just honestly didn't really know about in the world at 18. And so I switched majors and then wanted to do something in the community in line with my major. And I discovered the Children's Home was just a few minutes away from where I was going to school. And I started working in J.R. Cottage initially, which was one of the buildings there that had, at that point, kids, I think about 8 to 13 years old in that building. Started working with them, fell in love with it, and I've never looked back. So I've actually ended up since then working in every building, all shifts, all programs over the last 15 years. And I don't live in the state anymore. I live in Pennsylvania, where I own a real estate company, but I come back usually once a month and work in one of the units, and I serve as on-ground supervisor while I'm there to make sure the programs are running smoothly. And my wife and I are fortunate to be able to support a number of the programs throughout the year as well.
Well, it's kind of amazing, right? Like you came to go to school here, fell in love with this thing. And look, my Kemosabe and partner in crime, Don Moeller, who I do Baltimore Positive with, he's the king of Catonsville. He's the mayor of Catonsville, right? So, having a Catonsville story and a UMBC story and the stories that we tell here about someone coming to Baltimore and discovering this way to help Baltimore, even when they don't even live in Baltimore anymore. We got Baltimore Homecoming next week. You can check that out at BaltimorePositive.com with J.M. Shapiro. For you to be involved with this and learning a little bit about Catonsville and about children in the area, give me what you found as literally a kid volunteer. I mean, you were barely old enough to vote, not old enough to drink, and you're volunteering to help other young people in Catonsville, right?
Right. It was the first kid that I started working with who was not actually at the Children's Home, but in working with him, I kind of realized that there were a lot of people out there that didn't have what I had growing up. What
was your growing up? Where did you grow up? Give me your background.
Right outside Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
So you, suburban, good life, off the UMBC, good SAT scores, the whole deal, right?
Yeah, I didn't realize how good I had it at the time, but I had it pretty good. I really can't complain. So, any 18-year-old can complain and does complain until they realize what they actually have. And, working with kids from Baltimore City that had grown up with a lot of trauma, a lot of poverty, a lot of, lack of resources throughout their lives kind of opened my eyes to a new world that I just hadn't been involved in before. And I realized that I had a chance to make a difference. I had certain skills that I didn't realize I had at the time that, made me be able to relate to the kids and really kind of impact them. And I couldn't see myself doing anything else going forward.
And you're a realtor in the real world, right? I mean, like you have a whole other life, and you chip in, and everybody pitches in. This is kind of a Super Bowl event, right? I mean, for what you guys do on an annual basis, the Faces 2019. Give me the idea what's going to happen at the Grand Lodge on that night.
So we hope to have at least 200 people out. We had over 200 last year. People from all over the area that come out and support us. They buy tickets, they buy tables. We have a number of corporate sponsors. Our corporate sponsorship goal is bigger than ever this year at $50,000. And the goal, of course, is to raise as much as we can, because this is kind of the main event, as you said, Super Bowl event, where we try to raise a lot of the money we need for our programs throughout the year. So the money we get from Faces goes toward the weekly activities that we do, the cottage cash that goes to the kids for their weekend activities, the larger programs like our camp program over the summer. Last year we actually had kind of a signature piece where we tried to raise money for a new van, and we did that and bought a brand new van within a couple of months of the event, thanks to the generosity of our donors. So, the goal certainly is to raise as much as we can, but also provide a great experience for people that come out and educate them on what we do at the children's home for our kids. So they get to come out, meet some of the kids, see the artwork they've created for the event, hear some of the stories, interact with the staff and the key players at the home to kind of learn about what we do.
Well, teach me. In 2 minutes, give me a typical, or sadly, too typical story, I would think, about how a child winds up at the children's home.
Sure. So, at any given time, we have anywhere from 50 to 70 kids on campus in our 24-hour care throughout a number of buildings. We have both boys and girls, ages primarily from 13 to 18 or 19. We do have a couple that are older in the independent living program. The kids that come to us have, on the one hand, very, very different backgrounds across them, and on the other hand, a lot of similarities. So, they come from typically abuse or neglect situations, sometimes from juvenile justice, but I would argue usually if they're involved in that system, it's also because of abuse or neglect in most cases. Most of them have some sort of trauma in their background due to their circumstances and what led them to us. But again, each one also has their own individual experiences throughout that system, right? So by the time they get to us, usually a lot of trauma, usually a lot of mistrust because they've been through the system and dealt with a variety of caseworkers, foster
But
families.
these are post-adolescent kids, right? I mean, these are not 8-year-old children. This is 13 to 18 primarily, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So they live with us full time. They eat with us, sleep with us, the whole 9 yards. We try to give them as close to a quote-unquote normal home life as we can, and as you can, living with a bunch of other kids that are your age. So, you have a lot of personalities in one building and on one campus. And so we try to provide, as best we can, a similar experience to them being with a family. None of them are with their biological families, unfortunately, but our goal is to give them a loving home experience while they're with us, social skills, life skills, build up their self-esteem and their confidence, and get them set for the real world. So
how long would that be, typically or atypically, a range? I mean, some of these children stay with you for literally year and a half, or for that long? Or is there, I guess there's no sort of, incubation time as to, how this would work, but just to give me a little bit of a range, because there's such a long history, right, of doing this, and so many success stories, too, that when you've been doing it this long, there's a whole litany of graduates and alums that have gone on to do wonderful things that are I'm sure over the last 15 years are still a part of your life, right?
Absolutely. Some of them are texting me even as we speak. So yeah, it really varies based on that particular resident's goals and what their opportunities are outside of our facility, right? So some of them are with us short term while we find relatives or a foster placement that they can go to. Some are with us longer term, either because we have more work to do at our end to get them ready to go to another family, or it just takes a bit longer to find a placement for them. And in some cases, they end up staying with us, through 18, through high school graduation, and start attending college while they're in our independent living program. So it depends on that particular resident skill sets and resources, as well as what we can offer them.
I tell you what,
we used to have kids that would be with us 4, 5, 6 years.
Wow.
And basically lived with us for the majority of their adolescence.
Well, it might be the only stability they've ever had in their lives, correct? I mean, it is, literally.
Exactly.
If they had anything else more stable than that, they wouldn't be with you, correct?
Right.
Mike Coleman is here. He in the real world, he does like a realtor thing up in Philadelphia, but came to UMBC, fell in love with the area and also the folks over at the Children's Home. Has been there for 15 years. I was going to call you board member, this, that. We're just going to say staff member and educator of all things at the Children's Home. They're doing a big event. It's called Faces 2019. We want to encourage everyone to go out and learn about this at thechildren'shome.net. I'm reading off the website, so let's go here. Chic and relaxing evening of gourmet food, wine, music, dancing. My wife likes that already. Enjoy a collection of youth-inspired artwork available live and silent auction. Special recognition of Faces sponsors. Participation in interactive art station and photo booth. I love photo booths. That usually allows me to express my artistic style. And you learn all about what they do. It is November 1st. You can learn more about it up at the Children's Home and the events at the Grand Lodge just up in the Hunt Valley area. And that's 6 to 10 on November the 1st. So get involved in all that. This is over in Catonsville. I'm going to, when I see Don Moeller later this week, I'm going to make him tell me some more stories about this. But just if someone's listening right now, we talk so much about Thread and we on Baltimore Positive, we talk about all these awesome things going on. Somebody wants to get involved. They're down the street in Catonsville. Maybe they've heard, maybe they've driven down Bloomsbury Avenue 1,000 times, said, what's that? Who's that? I've heard of that. What would you encourage them to know about the work that you've gotten involved and gotten inspired over the last 15 years that somebody could say, well, I don't have a lot of time to give, but yeah, I could drop by for 2 hours on a Thursday morning, kind of hang out. What would be the engagement of someone other than writing a check for what you do?
I would say that there are a million things people can do, and they don't probably realize it at first, but we love any help we can get. So if people can give us an hour a week, 2 hours a week, great. If you don't have time, which you have a few dollars, we'll always take that. But we're always looking for volunteers to, spend time with the kids. If you have a skill set, whether it be, we have musicians that come on campus and actually help kids produce music in our in-house music studio. If you have anything you can share with our kids as far as real-world experiences, job resources, training, anything like that people want to come in and just share their knowledge. It doesn't cost anything to show up for an hour, and give a talk to some of our kids. We appreciate anything to kind of show them opportunities on the outside. And what I can tell you is, I work 80 to 100 hours a week, but I find the time because what I get from my weekend down there or a few hours down there or a week down there far surpasses the 100 hours of work that I do up here to be able to do that. So I think it's more fulfilling once people start doing it than they could ever even imagine.
Mike Coleman is here. You can find him and everyone at the Faces 2019 event. It's November the 1st. Circle that on your calendar. It's Friday night. It's up at the Grand Lodge. You can learn about everything they're doing over in Catonsville at the Children's Home by going to thechildren'shome.net. Mike, really appreciate the visit. Hey, man, next time you come down, bring me a cheesesteak, bring some pretzels, some soft pretzels, some of the good stuff down here. And you can keep the football team up there. We don't want them, but
I'll leave them home. Don't worry.
Hey, we can all agree on one thing. We all, we're all with UMBC. I saw Coach Odom the other day at the basketball kickoff. So go Dogs, all right?
There you go. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We all love Pete Caringi. We all have that in common. Mike Coleman from the Children's Home. All of our WNST and Baltimore Positive and community and charity segments that I've been doing for the last number of years, all brought to you by our friends at Cole Roofing. I think I'm holding the right side. That's the Keep Preakness in Baltimore hat. But I've pinned that up for Bill because all the Bill Coles, including the other Bill Cole, and somehow they're confused, probably only by me and my phone. But all the Bill Coles are working hard to keep the Preakness in town, too. So lots of Baltimore Positive stuff happening around here. Ben Carden, John Sarbanes, Bill Ferguson, Calvin Ball, J.M. Shapiro, Baltimore Homecoming. Lots of great stuff. Don and I are telling more stories. If you're listening on the radio side during the bye week after the Seattle game, you're going to hear a pretty steady diet of Baltimore Positive, and I'm going to have people like Barbara Mikulski and Dutch Rupersberger and Freeman Rabowski from UMBC and Reverend Al Hathaway. A complete review. Ron Shapiro to sort of fill your soul with some TED Talks, some thoughtfulness during bye week. So there, have at it. Talk amongst yourselves. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. So does Ness at BaltimorePositive.com, quite frankly. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking Baltimore Sports.